So today's video is a little bit different because it's not necessarily a jiu-jitsu related question, although it is jiu-jitsu related for me, as I'll share in a minute. But it's a question that was sent to me on Instagram, and I posted it up on my stories. I posted the answer on my stories. And once I posted it up, I got a lot of messages back from other young people saying it was helpful or wanted to know more. And the person that I had answered the question for messaged me and said it was very helpful. So I'm just going to put it up in a video. And again, I'm posting this on Sunday, so the normal weekly jiu-jitsu stuff is going, and this is just kind of a different video. But the question that he sent to me was, what kind of advice would you give to a young man, who is moving into adulthood, right? So a young person, what kind of advice would you give them? And here's the advice that I gave to him. And again, this advice, as I'll share in a second, was passed to me, was useful, and I'm passing it along to him and to you as well. And that advice was this: people spend like crazy amounts of energy, time, money, focus, whatever it is, on all sorts of things in their life, right? Like, I have friends that are really into cars, and they will mull over every little detail about that car, right? From the trim to the interior, everything about it, to make sure that they get the exact car that they want, or that that car is exactly the way that they want. And then in some cases, I've had people that I knew people that were buying a home, and I mean, they would just meticulously go over every little detail about that home when they were buying it. Even people, if you've ever been on a first date with someone, maybe when you were younger, when you're a little bit more insecure and you're younger, and you're meeting a person for the first time for the first date, and you're getting yourself dressed, and you're like looking at yourself, oh God, how does this look? You look in the mirror, oh, this shirt's terrible, I need a new shirt. And you mull over every little detail until you get to where you feel like everything's good. All that stuff. But people don't take that same kind of intensity of focus towards their life, their day-to-day life. Most people don't even put much thought into it. They just kind of go, whatever happens, happens. And I've been guilty of this myself. And your life, when you do this, where you don't really think about it that much and you don't really put much attention to it, it takes on kind of an existence of its own, and you're just simply along for the ride. Instead of being the driver, you're being drove around. And so this advice was given to me back when I was 19 years old. Put some attention to it and really think about designing your life. This was given to me by a mentor when I was 19 years old. And I remember he said it, and he said it because I called him up one day to talk to him about something, and he told me that he just got done taking a nap. It's 3 o'clock, taking a nap, which 3 o'clock to me taking a nap seems strange, but he said, listen here, Chewy. I design my lifestyle to be the things that I want, and here's the times that I work, and I have these businesses and these systems in place, and because he was a business owner, and explaining it all to me, but he said he designed it, which again just seems so foreign to me. How do you design it? That's so strange. And he gave me this advice. I was 19 years old, so I did what every 19-year-old does. I didn't listen, and I went about my life to do whatever. Now, by the time I was 22, I was swamped in debt with a bunch of stuff that I had bought that I didn't really want, and the lifestyle that I actually wanted, that I truly wanted deep in my heart, I didn't have. I was working a ton. I felt like I was a slave to my stuff. I couldn't train jiu-jitsu as much as I wanted to. I couldn't compete like I wanted to. And there was a process of sort of pressing the reset button where I kind of got away from all that stuff and got all that stuff taken care of and pressed the reset button. Now, when I pressed that reset button, I decided, being a little bit older, a little bit more mature, I decided to listen to his advice and say, okay, let me take this journal out because he said this works, and I'm going to write it down. I want to teach jiu-jitsu full time. I want to do this and this and this. And I wrote down basically a vision for my life, the way that I wanted it to go to. And I got down to the nuance of the day-to-day life. What does a day-to-day life look like in Chewy doing jiu-jitsu full time? I wrote it down. Now, I started doing this, and this was 2008. By 2010, that vision came mostly true. Now, the specifics were different, and it wasn't exactly the way that I had envisioned, but the overall idea of it, the overall idea was there. And so I was like, oh, it worked. Strange, right? You listen to people that have done it. It worked. Well, another time this happened, sharing another one with you, but a different circumstance where I had a couple businesses going, and I had a lot of good opportunities coming my way, but so much so that I was working so much where I was working from 5:30 in the morning till about 11 o'clock at night, and I felt like, again, I didn't, as these new opportunities came in, I didn't focus on putting them in their rightful place within my lifestyle design, right? So I just let it happen, and before I knew it, boom, my life was out of control again. I'm along for the ride, and I'm working from 5:30 to 11. It was crazy, and I felt really stressed out. I felt really overworked, and all these different things. Now, I went back to my mentor, like thinking about what he did, and I took the advice about the lifestyle design, but I also remember he did another thing. He used to take these vacations where he would go down to Florida, and again, when I was 19 years old, this seemed very strange to me. You're going to go to Florida by yourself? What are you doing that for? It's so weird. But he would go to Florida by himself for a week and then just sort of take assessment of his life, get away from everything, and then come back refreshed, recharged, and had his design ready to go. Well, I decided to, well, if it worked for him, let me try it. So I went down to Florida for a week, and while I was down there, I just did different stuff, trained at some different gyms, and just got away from everything that I was used to. And I remember on one day I sat on the beach for about 4 hours. A lot of that was under shade, by the way. I didn't want to burn to a crisp, but I was sitting under the shade for most of it on the beach, and I was writing in my journal, how do I want things to look now with all these good opportunities coming my way? How do I give them the rightful place so I can keep all this going without feeling like I'm becoming a slave to all this stuff that I really enjoy and love? So I wrote it down, and about a year and a half later, that stuff came to be. Now, it's interesting because the people that I had written in the vision weren't the people that ended up being there, so all the specifics were different, but the general idea of all of it kind of came to be. And so, by the way, I think a useful thing about that trip, by the way, that vacation, is that it's kind of like if I was looking at one of these pictures behind me. If I was looking at this picture this close, it would be very like blurry and I would just see a mess of colors. But if I take a step back, it comes into focus. And I think a lot of times when we're dealt with stress, anxiety, anything like that, any negative emotions, it's a really valuable thing to take a step back and get away from it so you can kind of look at it for what it is. You can be a little bit more logical and thoughtful about it. But going back to it, if anybody's younger watching this and you're like, man, Chewy, we got some advice because you seem like you got something going on. By the way, I'm still figuring everything out. But again, something that was useful to me, that was given to me from one of my mentors that I'll pass on to you, is really think about how you want this whole thing to go, right? Your whole life. How do you want it to look like? How do you want your day-to-day existence to look like? Now, there's no promises that that's going to work, but you should really put some thought into it because, again, you are the master of your own destiny. You can make the changes that you want. And your day-to-day life is super important because that's what's going to shape you. You know, when I look back at it, all the daily things that I've done over the years have been able to make me who I am to this day. It's like the Will Durant quote, which is, I think, a lot of times misattributed to Aristotle. You are what you repeatedly do. So if you're doing something all the time, that's what you are. You know, you are what you repeatedly do. So if you're training jiu-jitsu every day like I started to, I got pretty good at jiu-jitsu because of that daily habit. And so again, keep that in mind. The other thing is that you may want to sort of incorporate some sort of yearly, I do it yearly, vacation trip. It could be a vacation to Florida like I do, like my mentor does. You could do a camping trip. Those are really good. You could just go on a road trip or whatever you want to. Just get away from everything that you're normally used to, your normal routines, all that stuff. Get away from it all and take a step back and go, how does it look? Do I like this? This is how I want things to go, and then make some changes, and this way you take some deliberate control of the existence that you're going to live. And so that's my idea for you. That's the piece of advice. Again, that's one piece of advice for you that was useful to me, that I got from a mentor, and I'm passing it on to you guys. And again, so if you're a younger person looking for something from me to you, there you go. So anyway, hope that video is helpful to you guys, and I'll talk to you next time.